Welcome back to the 13 Darkest and Scariest Thomas adaptations. Today is entry number 11. Today we have a unique situation where it's a story based on an already existing story from the official Thomas model series. Adapted and directed by Arlsberg West Productions and narrated by oh good God, look at all those vowels. CTFeologist and rewritten by the Olsted line. This looks like a great rewritten, already existing horror adaptation, so let's get right into it.
Oliver and his brake van Toad liked working in the big yards, but one morning Toad noticed that Oliver was unhappy. He decided to find out why.
We open with Oliver feeling glum, longing for a nice run as he's been shunting most of the time, and his glumness evolves into frustration and causes him to lash out. This story follows the exact same storyline as the episode it's based on, titled the same name, for the most part. It isn't until we get to the third act that the rewritten version really begins, and I'll let this play out.
That night, the Fat Controller came to see Oliver in his shed. "Oliver, you have caused confusion. I thought you could control trucks. You shall work the mail train for a while. Maybe the night air will clear your smoke box." "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir," said Oliver sadly. "Cheer up, old chap," said his driver. "The mail train run is a grand run for a fine engine like you." Oliver smiled, but he still felt he'd let everyone down. The sea was calm and the fresh air couldn't help but brighten Oliver's spirits. They made good speed until it was time to collect some important mail from Harold the helicopter. "Come on, Harold!" They waited and waited. At last, Harold landed. "Sorry I'm late, Great Western. Had a bit of a problem with one of my arms. Kept letting me down when I was meant to be up. You know how it is." "We know that we'll be late for our first run," said Oliver's driver. Soon they were on their way again. Ahead was a red signal light. Oliver didn't realize that the signalman had dozed off waiting for them. Oliver whistled several times, but the signal stayed red. "There must be something wrong with that signal. We'll go slowly and stop by the signal box," said his driver. But they never reached it. The points before the signal box were switched onto an old track. They were going the wrong way. Oliver's fireman was concerned. "We need to find a water tower soon." Instead, they saw an old, rundown station. They stopped just beyond the platform, where the driver and fireman stepped out from Oliver's cab and examined the old building. As they did so, Oliver's eyes became fixed on an old wooden shed that sat on the line just ahead of him. He felt nervous as he eyed the spooky structure closely. "What's wrong, old boy?" his fireman asked. It's nothing. I just think we should go," Oliver answered anxiously. "Very well, then," the fireman replied. "We'll head back and explain to the Fat Controller what's happened." But just as he got back into the cab, they all heard a strange wheezing sound. "What was that?" Oliver quivered. "Goodness me, look at that!" cried the driver. Steam was trickling out from the cracks under the shed doors. "I think we've just found another steam engine," exclaimed the fireman. "Wait!" Oliver quickly put in. "Are we sure it's safe to go in there?" "Don't be silly, Oliver. I'm sure that whatever's in there won't hurt you. Here, we'll go and investigate." The driver and fireman flung open the shed doors, but to their surprise, there was nothing there. The only thing inside was an old steam engine funnel, which sat in between the rusty rails. The driver picked it up. "See, Oliver? That wasn't so bad!" The fireman ran over and was shocked to see a burn mark cutting deep into the driver's hand. The guard finally stepped out from his van. "What What's going on here? He demanded.
Jesus, once again a surprise screams that leaves me with goosebumps and a bit of a jump. The shed doors begin opening and closing by themselves at a rapid pace. Oliver and his crew leave as fast as they can. Morning arrives and Oliver still hasn't returned. They send out a search party where Oliver returns, visibly shaken by what he had seen last night.
Toad is very eager to know about Oliver's adventures. Excuse me for asking, Mr. Oliver, but how was your nice run last night? Well, it was quite eventful. Got sent down the wrong line and ended up in an old station, and, that was it. Well, it seems like you had an interesting time then, Mr. Oliver. Toad chuckled. Maybe you should ask the Fat Controller to give you more jobs like these. Oliver wasn't so sure what Toad meant, but deep inside, he hoped he'd never have to, ever again.
This is a really unique scenario where 75% of it is based on an already existing official story by the Thomas Model series. Yet it adds a more thrilling and scary twist to the third act of it. But it does have quite a few problems, despite it being really enjoyable. Let's go with the cinematography and world building here. This is beautifully shot through the day and night sequences, so much so that we can see plenty of details in both environments. Oliver's colors really pop out at night, and we can see plenty of detail in the textures and the grass. Not everything is too, contrasty at night, and even in the day sequences, not everything is that bright. It's like a perfect balance here, and that's a good thing. Definitive 10 points here. Once again, this is worth 20 points. CTFeologist is our voice for the storytelling and the character voices. He does a really great job trying to emulate the original lines narrated by Alec Baldwin in this episode.
Oliver, you have caused confusion. I thought you could control trucks. You shall work the mail train for a while.
And especially in the third act where the story is rewritten into a real scary story, he delivers the same enthusiasm, especially with the jump scare we get.
See, Oliver? That wasn't so bad! The fireman ran over and was shocked to see a burn mark cutting deep into the driver's hand.
And you could really feel he's trying to put his all into his narration. So, I'm giving him a 20 points here. The sound effects are great. Not much to say about that. But the characters are stale. There's nothing too new about them other than them getting spooked in this story. I honestly felt like the conversation between Toad and Oliver at the end could have been rewritten to focus on the two discussing the events of last night. Instead, Oliver doesn't exactly open up to Toad, which I find odd, considering their relationship. On top of that, the story is just following the original script to the original episode. The only difference being that what Oliver finds is kind of spooky and kind of scary. But even with that, there's barely even a twist or even a conversation following the events of that night. It could use a little bit of work, and it leaves a lot more to be desired. This is the lowest amount of points I'll give for that because of just the unoriginality of it. It's just following another existing story. Doesn't mean I hate it, but still, this is a 5 point right here. It's just the same Thomas music that plays in the original episode. The whole scary sequence is silent at some points through and through, and I wish they would add some suspenseful music cues to put a little bit more emphasis on it. But it leaves a lot to be desired. It's typical Thomas music. I'm giving it a 7 here. And the final score is a 42 out of 50, which puts it in dead last. This is number 11 in the amount in the list we have going on here, with 2 more to go. Only 2 more after this. The reason why this has got such a low grading in terms of is because of the story. It's just following an already existing story while adding a new element to it towards the third act of it. But other than that, it's just a copycat of another story. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, because I do. It's just that there was a lot more to be desired. I could have changed it, a little bit. Besides the scary element towards the third act. But thank you guys for watching. 2 more entries to go, and I'll see you in the next 2.